Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 7-Minute Takeover, where we chat all things acquisitions. We're your hosts. I'm Liz Prey.
I'm Eamon Gamble.
Today we're covering an overcoming objections segment.
Yeah, today's episode is going to be focused on something that's at the top of most buyers' mind. Why do buyers fail in their search process?
Yeah. It can be quite surprising that a lot of buyers are not successful in buying a business. It is a long process. It takes usually more time than people estimate it to take. And so we have a series of reasons why a lot of buyers are not successful, and we're going to roll with them.
I'm going to roll off a list of reasons. And again, you know, there's luck involved in some of these situations, or just being unlucky rather. But these were really focused on patterns of behavior that are going to lead to a less successful process, just to give you the heads up so that you can avoid them in your own in your own process. So I'll list them off, and Liz, you tell us why they cause deals to fail. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Let's go.
So the first one, a buyer not knowing what they want.
Being too broad can actually deter brokers from working with you. You do have industry knowledge. You do have preferences and things that you're not interested in. As much as you start out thinking, I'm just looking for a business, many people do start off agnostic. There are ways that you can narrow in. Village Wealth has a learning management system, and in there we've got some tips and a worksheet for you in refining your search criteria. So there are ways for you to start to narrow that and narrow your message. You'll come across much more prepared and more sophisticated when you've got a clear investment thesis.
Excellent. Okay, second reason, buyers move too slowly. You know, this is a big decision for a lot of folks, and you know, it may be the biggest purchase they've ever made. You know, why would taking your time make it less likely that you're going to get a deal closed?
Yeah. So taking more time can also indicate to a seller that you're not as knowledgeable about the process and you don't really know what you want. So the more that you can understand about what you're looking for in a business, the faster that you'll move, because you'll know what you want when you see it. And that will indicate proficiency, knowledge around the acquisition, motivation. It shows that you are here to invest in the process and really committed to this acquisition on this piece. And it's really important to maintain momentum within the deal process and not to take your foot off the gas, and to keep things moving forward. So when we see people pause, it creates hesitation. It can disrupt certainty from all sides. So really being able to move when you see something that is of interest will really build confidence across the screen.
Speed kills. Yeah. So in the another one that maybe scares a lot of buyers coming into this process, not being financially deal ready. So not knowing maybe what you are able to transact on and how to tell if you are able to get a deal done based on some initial due diligence. How do we see that manifest?
Yeah, so you jump in on this one too, Eamon, but not really fully understanding what funds you have available or your sources of funds, where they're coming from. If you are thinking about raising capital but maybe haven't lined up your investors, or maybe you're just early on in the process and you're starting to look before you have allocated sufficient funds toward your transaction, and also really not understanding how deal structuring or the financing landscape works. You really want to elevate your knowledge in how deals are structured in a way that a lender is going to get in and want to participate with you. So having that knowledge is really important in the process.
Yeah, I think all I'll add there is that there's some buyers that think that they can figure out both the equity and the debt pieces of their transaction during due diligence. And you know, the equity investors always want to know what the lenders are going to do, and the lenders want to know who's investing in the deal. So there is a bit of a chicken and an egg problem there. As Liz mentioned, having a little bit more solid relationship and commitment from investors before making an offer can help avoid that challenge. And knowing generally what the lenders are able, what their appetite is, and how they can support your transaction ahead of making that offer.
Absolutely.
All right. Weak relationship building. I'm just reading off a list. So, Liz, what is weak relationship building and how does it hurt?
So it can mean not building in-depth relationships with brokers or with your network. We've talked about this in multiple episodes, but not just leaving it to browsing marketplaces. This is a relationship game, and so even if you're using marketplaces, use those marketplaces as a pathway to the broker that you're then going to build a relationship with, and then going out and networking in your area, networking virtually as well, asking for meetings, building those deeper relationships. They will come back to serve you. But just sitting behind your computer is not the best and most in-depth approach to finding a business to buy. So get out of your comfort zone. This is a process to run, and so building deeper relationships will help you have more success.
Be great if somebody could just come up with that easy button that I could click from my desktop to buy a business, wouldn't it?
I know.
We're not there yet. Next reason, poor communication and negotiation styles. So this isn't relationship building. This is actually, once you're in those relationships, how you communicate with the other parties.
Yep. There can be a lot of little nuanced subtleties in the conversations during negotiations, even during due diligence, and understanding how to pick up on those subtleties and read between the lines is really important. So sometimes knowing where to push and where to pull back. And this is where having the right advisory support really comes in, and making sure your advisor team is strong, because that's who you're going to have on your bench as you navigate these conversations. And I know you've got more to add on that point yourself.
Yeah, I think again the sellers want to see a steady hand. They want confidence. Everybody wants to have a partner that they know that can execute on the transaction and that has maybe the emotional stability to handle ups and downs, which the search process offers a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
And so being able to communicate, consistently and without placing blame on people for different issues that come up is going to make a big difference to your
There's
success.
always going to be issues that come up. There's always going to be findings in due diligence. The acquirers who are the most successful are the ones who can identify those challenges and come up with resolutions for those challenges and be able to mitigate those risks.
So I saw the next one on the list. I'm going to try and answer this one before you jump in, Liz. That is the problem of unrealistic expectations. Again, I think this goes back to the expectation that buying a business is somewhat like buying a house, and that it's going to be straightforward and you can optimize your financial ratios and know exactly how much you can get in terms of a mortgage or from investors. It is not the same in this space. There are going to be little subtleties to every business that are going to throw a wrench in your perfect financial model that you've built. I find engineers are sometimes some of the worst offenders here, where they think everything can be boiled down to a spreadsheet. But again, this is a messy world of competitive forces, suppliers, clients, employees, emotions, especially on behalf of the seller who built this business oftentimes. And so having unrealistic expectations that you can kind of smooth out all these bumps and that you won't actually have to work through these things collaboratively with the seller can make the process very frustrating for some buyers.
Absolutely. You covered it well.
Okay, next one, analysis paralysis.
There's a lot of information on each of these deals, and sometimes people can get overwhelmed with the number of deals that they're looking at and the amount of information that is provided on each deal, or the additional research that's required in order to continue to dig deeper into each of these deals. And sometimes you just get stuck in the weeds of how much research do you do, to what end do you do that research. And this can come back to the timing of moving slowly. Sometimes this analysis by paralysis then reflects in the speed of your execution style. And so doing too much research up front, and that's again comes back to having comfort in knowing what you want and knowing what you're looking for before you get comfortable to be able to put together a letter of intent and move forward with momentum and with efficiency. And so getting comfortable with how much information is the right amount of information for you to move into the next stage at that time is really important. So analysis by paralysis, just that kind of stifling, being stagnant, staying in that research zone or that analysis period for too long and not taking the step to the next stage, which oftentimes is I'm going to make an offer on this business.
Yeah, nothing's perfect, and so just being able to accept some of the risks that the acquisition may present and say, I'll deal with that later, is the only way you're mentally going to get to the finish line. Poor diligence management. How has this caused a deal to fail?
There's a lot to consider in due diligence, and there is a more formal process to it at this point, but it also changes with each different industry and sector. So you can push and pull on different things based on the industry, but not doing the appropriate amount of due diligence can then cause questions and uncertainty and discomfort because you haven't really wholesomely done that depth of due diligence that should be done. And so then it can cause some uncertainty when it gets closer to closing. And so covering that due diligence process, having that process with your advisors, making sure that you've unturned all the necessary stones, and then also making sure you're protected from a legal and contractual position on the back end as well. That goes hand in hand. So understanding how the contracts work and understanding where you need to protect yourself. And yes, your lawyer's there, but it's important for you to understand that methodology and what goes into those contracts as well.
And since I think we may be getting close to the 7-minute mark, the last one to wrap up here, quitting too early. Now this is a self-fulfilling reason for failure. If you quit, you're going to fail. So what do you mean by this, Liz? How can a potential buyer keep up their momentum and not quit too early?
I'd say having a community is really helpful, to know that you're not alone in this process. It can feel lonely at times, and it does take resilience. We've heard, and lots of people may have heard, that a deal dies about 5 or 7 times. I'm not sure.
Hopefully not 7.
There's valleys of death in this process. And so understanding that, you might go through a few offers, you might go through a few, issuances of due diligence. And, if you're really determined in buying a business, then you'll probably get there, but it's pushing through what's hard and getting all the way through.
Okay, so plenty of reasons why buyers fail. I think we don't want to leave you with the impression that you're bound for failure.
Doomed.
You're doomed from the start. But I think these are good things to keep in mind as you're setting your process up, or maybe you're halfway through a search process and needing a little bit of motivation. So watch out for these pitfalls and keep going.
Yeah, we hope these will help you be even more successful. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, please be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and check out our website at villagewealth.com.